Number 6, Kobe Bryant.
So Kobe Bryant's totals and frontline resume stuff, let's just get right to it. 11-time first-team All-NBA. That is the second most ever, tied for the second most ever, behind only LeBron. 2-time second-team All-NBA, 2-time third-team All-NBA, 15 total All-NBA teams. That, again, is tied for the second most ever, behind only LeBron. Now, he only has the one league MVP, but 11 times he finished in the top 5. So 11-time first-team All-NBA, 11 top 5 MVP finishes. He is 12-time All-Defense. He is a 2-time scoring champ, including a season where he averaged 35 points per game. He has the 4th most points in NBA history. And some of these numbers here are just bananas. He scored at least 30, 431 times in his career. That is 5.5 full seasons of 30-point games. That's the 5th most ever. He scored at least 40, 122 times in his career. That is the 3rd most ever. He scored at least 50, 25 times in his career. That is the 3rd most ever. He scored at least 60, 6 times in his career. That is the 2nd most ever. He has obviously the 2nd most points in a game ever, the 81-point game against Toronto. And then he also has the game against Dallas where he scored 63 points through 3 quarters. And they asked him, you didn't want to go for 70, try for 80? He's like, no, I'll do that another time. And he did it a few weeks later. So that's the regular season stuff. It's jarring. The postseason stuff, a lot of great, some a little bit of bad. And Kobe versus Duncan is going to be contested, obviously, by virtue of the fact that I haven't said Duncan's name yet. He's ahead of him. One of the deciding factors is Duncan doesn't have as many tough playoff moments as Kobe. I'm not even holding the teenage Kobe stuff against him, but I don't want to focus on Kobe's tough playoff moments. Instead, 6 greatest players the last 50 years. Over these next 10 minutes, I want to focus on mostly his great playoff moments. He's obviously a 5-time champion, a 7-time finalist, and a 2-time finals MVP. And just like he has the 4th most regular season points ever, he has the 4th most playoff points ever. But let's do it like we've done it for everybody, year by year. So 1997, he's 18 years old. 18 years old. And in round 1, he has a 22-point game. 1998, he's 19 years old, also has a 22-point game, but that's about it. Again, he's a literal teenager. You can't hold any, he wasn't that good in that round. Hey, LeBron came in the league as a teenager, didn't make playoffs first couple of years. We don't know how he would have done. Not fair. But now we will get to his actual playoff stuff. 1999. Finally a starter, because those first 2 years he also wasn't a starter. He's playing real minutes and averages as a 20-year-old in 1999. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists for the playoffs. They get to round 2. 2000. His first time in the playoffs as a star, and he played like it. In the playoff run, the run to the championship, Kobe Bryant averaged 21 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He was the unquestioned second-best player on a dominant champion. He had 3 30-point games in round 1 against Sacramento. He was obviously the passer on the historic Kobe to Shaq lob in Game 7 against Portland, including in that game 25 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. Again, this is Kobe Bryant at 21 years old on a run to the finals. And here's something that Kobe fans remember, but I think a lot of other folks don't. Game 4 of the finals. So Kobe misses Game 3 with an injury that he suffered in Game 2. He's back in Game 4. That game goes to overtime. The series is only 2-1. Shaq fouls out. Kobe scores 8 points in OT, finishes with 28 for the game, and they go up 3-1, obviously go on to win the championship. By the way, in Game 6, the title-clinching game, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. 2001, though, was when he fully arrived as a top 5 player. That playoff run in 2001. In the playoff run, he averages 29 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He's 22 years old. Round 2 against Sacramento, Game 3, 36, 7, and 4. And in Game 4, to finish off the sweep, plays all 48 minutes, and has 48 and 16. 48 and 16. 22 years old to finish off the sweep of the Kings. Averages for the series, 35 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Opens the next round. So he closed out Sacramento with 48. Opens the next round with 45 and 10. So that's 93 points in consecutive playoff games for the 0-1 Lakers. To eliminate the Spurs that round, he has 36, 9, and 8. In the finals, he scores 30 twice. Averages for the finals, 25, 8, and 6. The Lakers are 15 and 1 that playoffs. Some people think it's the greatest team ever. He was dominant. Utterly dominant. He's 22 years old. He was their second best guy. If you want to know why, how good was Shaq during that run? We'll go look. The Shaq numbers are cartoonish during these 3 years, but that shouldn't overshadow what Kobe did. 2002, going for the three-peat, opens the playoffs with a 34-point game. For the playoffs, averages 27, 6, and 5. They're kind of coasting until the Western Conference Finals against the Kings, down 3-2. In that famous Game 6, everybody knows the officiating not great, but in the famous Game 6, he has 31, 11, and 5. And Game 7, the OT game, the game where Peja airballed what should have been the game winner, he plays 52 and a half of 53 minutes and scores 30, 10, and 7. They needed every last bit of it to get back to the finals. In the finals, which they had no chance. New Jersey was drawing dead against them. He averages 27, 6, and 5, including the key game of those finals was Game 3. You're up 2-0. Is it going to be series? Is it not? Kobe has 36, 6, and 4. They win their third straight title. So that's Kobe Bryant. He's 23 years old. He's 3-time champion. Now, I had won a finals MVP because Shaq, again, refer to the Shaq video. All he did over those 3 years in the finals was average 36 and 16. But Kobe had a key moment in 2000 to win the championship, the game Shaq fouled out of. In 2001, he was utterly fantastic. Back-to-back 45-plus point games, and then kicked ass in the finals. And 2002, you could argue that he was, I don't think he was, but one could argue at that point he was third best player in the league. You could argue it was Shaq, Duncan, Kobe. That's how good he was. So now let's go to 2003. They're going for 4 in a row. Obviously, no one's won 4 in a row since Russell's Celtics. Nobody had been to 4 straight at that point in time since Bird's Celtics, right? Or the Celtics and the Lakers in the 80s did it. He's going for 4 in a row. For the playoffs, he averages 32, 5, and 5 in 2003. That's the first playoffs he outplays Shaq. He averages 32, 5, and 5 for the playoffs. He opened the playoffs with 39, 5, and 8. Round 2 against San Antonio, he scores 35 4 times, but they lose in 6. In that playoff run, by the way, Shaq and Kobe combined per game, 60 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists. The rest of the Lakers, though, were not up to the task. That was, Spurs were better. Spurs deserved to win. So instead of, going for a 4th straight, they're out in round 2 to San Antonio. The team was gassed. 0-4. They're down 2-1 to the defending champion Spurs in round 2. Kobe has 42, 6, and 5. That's his first 40-point game since the back-to-back ones in the playoffs, that is, that we just talked about in 0-1. He gets back to the finals, beating Garnett and Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. They lose to Detroit, and if we're being fair, he has a rough finals. He has one good game and their one win, 33, 4, and 7. But for the finals, averages 23 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists on just 38% shooting, and now Shaq's gone. And now it's a bit of a wasteland for a little bit. 05, they missed the playoffs in the middle of his prime. Not great. 06, this is a weird one. Because the 06 first round has a couple of his best moments and then his arguably worst moment of his career. So 06 first round against Phoenix, game 4. He hits a layup to end regulation and force overtime and a buzzer beater in overtime where he does the famous Michael Jordan pantomime fist pump celebration. That puts them up 3-1. Game 5, they lose. Game 6, Kobe scores 50. 50 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. But they lose in overtime. Game 7 is the rough moment. He's angry about Game 6. He scores 50 and they lose. He scores 23 in the first half, but only had 1 assist in that first half, and they're down by 15. Something happened at halftime in the locker room about Kobe needing to pass more. So in the second half of that game, he refuses to shoot. In the second half of the Game 7 of a series they were up 3-1 in, where Kobe had a buzzer beater to win a game, a 50-point game and a loss. Second half, he takes 3 shots, scores 1 point on a technical free throw, and they lose by 20+. So now it's Shaq's gone. You missed the playoffs out in round 1. Now we're to 07. Phoenix again in round 1, down 0-2. Kobe keeps them alive by scoring 45, 6, and 6, but they lose in 5 anyway. Kobe averaged 33, 5, and 4. Then there's the career crossroads. The famous, he went on Stephen A. Smith's radio show, floated that he wanted to be traded, trashed some of his teammates in that parking lot video, and the Lakers don't trade him. Instead, they trade for Powell, and now, boom. Kobe finally has a legitimate team around him, and what do? They make 3 straight finals. 49, 4, and 10 in Game 2 of a round 1 sweep of Carmelo and AI in Denver. Averages 33, 7, and 7 in round 2 against Utah, scoring at least 33 in 5 of the 6 games. 39 points to get back to the finals and close out the Spurs. Again, the defending champion Spurs. In the finals, averages 26, 5, and 5, including 36 and 7, but Boston wins in 6. Averaged 36 and 6 for the playoffs. 30.6 rebounds, 6 assists. But he's back in the finals, and obviously the next 2 years they would win the title. Well, again, his long career, we gotta go year by year on it. 09 for the playoff run. Averages 30 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. In round 1, Game 4 against Utah, 38 and 6 to go up 3-1. 40-point game in Game 2 of round 2 against Houston. That was a weird series. That Houston team had no business taking the Lakers 7, but they did, but the Lakers won. In 7, obviously. Magnificent in the Western Conference Finals against Carmelo. Carmelo's best and only real chance to make the finals. Averaged 34, 6, and 6. Had 2 40-point games and a game of 35, 6, and 10 in those Western Conference Finals. He opens the finals with 40 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. He averages 32 points per game for the series for his first finals MVP. And I would argue, and I think most people would argue, the most important ring of his career up to that point. It tied Shaq. That was a real rivalry at that point in time. It proved you could win it without Shaq. But did Kobe Bryant rest? Oh, no, of course not. Kobe Bryant won the type to rest. Very next year, they win it again. So in round 1, they're playing the Young Thunder. He has 32, 7, and 3 to beat OKC in game 6. That was the Powell tip-in game. That's another sliding doors moment. If Powell doesn't get that tip-in, that thing goes 7. Does OKC knock out the defending champ Lakers? I don't know, but they don't. Kobe has 32, 7, and 3. They escape in round 1 against OKC. Round 2, they sweep Utah. Kobe scores 30 in all 4 games, or at least 30. Opened the Western Conference Finals with 45 and 5 against Phoenix. Averages 34, 7, and 8 for the series to get to his 3rd straight finals. Second time in his career has been to 3 straight finals. Won his 2nd straight finals MVP. Averages 29, 8, and 4 for the series. And yes, we all know he was 6 of 24 in Game 7. But the idea that someone else should have been finals MVP that year when he averaged 29, 8, and 4 was nuts. So from 08 to 2010, made the finals all 3 years, won 2 titles. His playoff averages across those 3 years, 30 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. And then it's basically over. 2011, he's swept by Dallas in round 2, averages 23 points for the playoffs. 2012, he has one final burst in him. Final 3 playoff games of his career, playing the Thunder of 2012, the Thunder that would go on to the finals. He has 36, 7, and 6, 38, 8, and 5, and 42.5 rebounds, 0 assists in his final playoff game ever, which is a little fitting in a good way, similar to Kobe's final regular season game ever being the iconic 60-point game. And so that's the career. So 88 career 30-point playoff games. That is the third most ever, behind only MJ and LeBron. 13 career 40-point playoff games. That's the sixth most ever. And a career playoff average of 26, 5, and 5 for the sixth greatest player of the last 50 years. The late, great Kobe Bryant. Let's go to some Kobe Bryant caller before we wrap it up.
Kobe at number 6. Fun fact about Kobe Bryant. He's the only player in the top 10-ish discussion who won multiple championships without a top 75 teammate. When he won his last two with Pau Gasol, Gasol did not make the top 75. That puts Kobe in a class by himself in regards to championships. Michael, LeBron, Shaq, Kareem, you can go on and on. None of them won multiple titles without a top 75 teammate like Kobe did. Props.
Nick, appreciate you having me on the podcast, bro. You know, over your career, I've had a lot of takes that I have vehemently disagreed with, but none more than you saying that Kobe is on this list of greatest players to never be the best player in the NBA. And I'm just trying to imagine a world where, let's just take Luka Doncic, who you have top 20 on this list, starts a 3-year run next year where he wins a league MVP, goes to 3 straight NBA finals, wins 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs. Just me trying to imagine you going on first things first and not declaring he's the best player in the world. You know and I know it would not happen, which is so fascinating because that is exactly what Kobe did from 2008 to 2010. So yes, he was the best player in the league, and I get LeBron historically is better and took that torch from him. But in those 3 years, he was the best player in the league, and you got to give him some love for that. So that's a small little correction you got to make. But appreciate you having my big dog high on this list. RIP to the Black Mamba.
Okay, so I want to comment on what Ty said there, because what Ty is referring to is something I've said in the past I did not say in that video, which was I have said the prestigious make-believe best player alive title belt, that it has only ever been held in NBA history by the following people: Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain in the 60s, Kareem almost the entirety of the 70s, Moses Malone briefly, late 70s to early 80s, Larry Bird in the mid-80s, Magic Johnson after that, Michael Jordan obviously in the early 90s, Akeem Olajuwon, then back to Jordan. After Jordan that time it was Shaq, then Duncan, this is the part Ty gets upset about, then LeBron to Giannis. He argues that it went Duncan to Kobe to LeBron. He makes the point that from 08 to 10, the guy I have as the best player alive, LeBron, won 0 championships. Kobe won 2 of them. I understand that part of it. My issue is I think LeBron became the best player in the NBA in 2007 at 22 years old when he carried that team to the NBA Finals with the 48 special against Detroit. Now, some would say, Nick, you're biased towards LeBron. I don't think I am, but so be it. The addendum I would have is this. If LeBron didn't actually become the best player in the league until 2010, then it would be Kobe Bryant. Either way, there's a lot of guys on our list, on our top 50, in our top 15, Durant, Steph, that also have not been best player alive. Hell, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm trying to think other guys that would be on here who's super high. Isaiah Thomas, the top 15 guy, never best player alive. So it wouldn't be bad company, but I understand what Ty is saying. Also, though, I mentioned Duncan being the best player. We are also now to the top 5. We have not said Tim Duncan's name, and we just did Kobe's name, which means by definition, I have Duncan ahead of Kobe. Duncan will be coming up shortly on this list. It will cause massive consternation from folks that I have Duncan ahead of Kobe. We will discuss that to wrap the show as another special episode of What's Right with Nick Wright, the 50 greatest players of the last 50 years, continues right after this. All right, welcome back in. What's Right with Nick Wright, the special edition, 50 greatest players of the last 50 years. We just gave you number 6, Kobe Bryant. So that means the 5 people left on the list, and I'll try to just say them alphabetically, would be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I got to think of who they are and how the alphabet works. LeBron James, Magic Johnson. Oh, no, I forgot how the alphabet works. Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan. Those are your 5 guys. There is a hotly contested debate, is Kobe or Duncan. We have a caller that wants to chime in on that and might give you a little sneak preview into some of our Duncan stuff coming up in the weeks ahead. Here's the caller.
Hey, Nick. So you don't know me, but after I saw your list that came out, I had to hit my Rolodex and find someone who did know you so that they could deliver this video of me telling you how off your rocker you are for ranking Tim Duncan ahead of Kobe Bryant. Now, yes, they both have 5 NBA championships, so it's pretty close. But I just want to remind you of the situation that Kobe was walking into. He had to win that first 3 championships with Shaquille O'Neal, who constant battles between who is number 1 of that team, whose team it was, which ended in Shaq leaving for the Heat. And then Kobe, was he done? Did he need Shaq? No, he didn't. What he did was he won one with Andrew Bynum and with Metta World Peace, 2 of them, as a matter of fact. So let's compare that to Tim Duncan, who just moseyed himself into the league and won those, but with a well-respected organization that rarely has any drama, led by the greatest coach of all time, Greg Popovich. So let's look at that stability versus all the hurdles that Kobe Bryant had to overcome to have the same amount of championships.
Okay, listen, I'm not going to use this time to tear down Kobe. I was called him the 6th greatest player of the last 50 years. But that's some of the most revisionist history I've ever heard. The idea that Kobe won the 2 championships with Bynum and Metta World Peace and did not mention Pau Gasol's name is crazy. To say that Duncan had this massive advantage of a great coach in Greg Popovich when Kobe's coach for all of his championships was Phil Jackson is outrageous. And to act like going to a team with Shaquille O'Neal was a detriment as opposed to a guaranteed finals berth, which gave Kobe so much of the experience. And as we just discussed, how great he was, particularly in the 01 and 02 finals. It's just nonsense. They just total and utter revisionist history. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.